Now, Prime Minister Modi met with President Volodymyr Zelensky on the first ever visit to Ukraine by an Indian Prime Minister, a historic visit where both leaders held a one-on-one and delegation-level talks with a focus on ways to find a negotiated settlement to the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Prime Minister Modi said that India had not been neutral or an indifferent bystander during the Russia-Ukraine war and was always on the side of peace. Now, President Zelensky also held a briefing in which he said that he is open to a peace summit in Global South and maybe even India. Now, Zelensky in fact did flag the fact that India does import oil from Russia, to which External Affairs Minister S Jaishankar said there's no political connotation to those acts. My colleague Vishnu brings us more details, but first listen in to what both leaders had to say.
And very big influence on Russian economy. Today you have it, and it's true, because really a lot of export possibilities for Russia closed, but India is open. We spoke about it with Prime Minister. Of course, it helps today for Russian army. And I think that government of India, of course, understands it. And of course, we will be happy to work how to find alternatives.
You know, India is a big oil consumer. It's a big oil importer because we don't have oil. Now, it's not like there's a political strategy to buy oil. There is an oil strategy to buy oil. There's a market strategy to buy oil. So the figures of where we get our oil imports go up and down. It depends on the state of the market. But it would definitely, I think the fact that the market is tight, that today big suppliers like Iran and Venezuela, who used to supply India, are constrained from operating freely in the markets, I think is a factor which needs to be taken into account.
A critical day in Indian foreign policy with Prime Minister Narendra Modi travelling to Kyiv in Ukraine, where it's been a very long journey. He had to take a train across, but he did do that, and he arrived over here with the National Security Advisor. He did arrive with the new Foreign Secretary, with the Foreign Minister, the Secretary West. So it was a very high-powered Indian delegation. And the message was the message of peace, that look, India stands by Ukraine in the desire to end this war. But whether there was a specific proposal which India actually had to a specific question, which I asked the External Affairs Minister, he didn't say that there was any one specific proposal that India had put on the table, but that there were multiple options that needed to be looked at. There's been a joint statement as well. There are 4 or 5 areas which both countries are working towards. That's something which actually takes the relationship forward to a certain extent. But it's the question of India's continued import of Russian oil which really did dominate talks, it appears. According to President Zelensky, who a few of us met today in a detailed press conference, he said that oil was the big focus in talks, and there are record-breaking contracts being put by India. It has an influence on the Russian economy. India is open for Russia, and India's oil imports helps the Russian army. This helps him very much. Earlier on, External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar said that in fact there was a rationale for India's import of oil, that it balances out the state of the oil economy worldwide. It made positive sense from a global standpoint, but that's an argument which the Ukrainians and President Zelensky doesn't accept. He says that if India seizes our oil imports, then the Russian society will push Vladimir Putin, and that will be a step towards ending the war. And that is the role that India must have. And he went on to say that India needs to pick a side in this. It's not enough to balance Russia and Ukraine. India needs to come clean on this and to make a very clear position as far as confronting or taking on Russia is concerned. And a key way of doing that is by stopping these oil imports. So I would suggest that these were unusually strong comments on a day in which Prime Minister Modi came over here. Yes, there were various positive aspects of the visit as well. For example, Ukraine very, very interested in stepping up the defense relationship with India. President Zelensky said that he's all too happy to import Russian arms if they are Indian arms if they are manufactured. He's willing to transfer drone technology to India. He's willing to set up Ukrainian plants in India. There's already been this historic defense relationship which he clearly wants to step up. asked a specific question on whether there was any one proposal which had come, which could actually take the entire process forward, he said that, there is no one proposal per se. There are several proposals which actually come, and that these are political statements, but in terms of specifics, he hasn't seen anything. And that wasn't just a reference to Prime Minister Modi. It was generally about proposals for peace which have come. But I think the takeaway message was we need India on our side, not balancing Russia and Ukraine. And he said that by stopping the import of Russian oil, India would be in a position to impact the outcome of this war. So fairly strong remarks from from Mr. Zelensky on a day in which India and Ukraine have worked together to try and take that relationship to the next level.